Think I'm live.
Yep, you live.
I'm live.
You live.
Good evening, viewers. Tonight is part two, I guess. Uh, let's see here. What are we going to talk about tonight? What do y'all want me to talk about
Uh,
tonight?
let's talk about the
I
pitfalls.
guess I'm here to give the male perspective in this. Sirens again.
That's what I'm saying. Where do y'all live? Is that the hood? Yeah. Stuff be going on.
Uh,
Male perspective.
what does a man go through in this, right?
What does a man go
What
through
what is it like to be a man in this?
to have more than one wife?
To have two women in the same house.
Same house. It's a life.
I would say this: when you start off in this, you go through what I call a bit of a shock. No matter how much you prepare for it, no matter how much you envision it, no matter how much you stay on the drawing board and you plan what it's going to be like, and when you, especially in this situation, when you all live in the same home, when you get that addition to the family, and it's more than just a new child that comes in, a new baby is born, which is also another addition, but you get that new dynamic added, which creates a more complex paradigm. You do go through a bit of a shock, and I've seen that kill a lot of families, that a lot of people do not survive. They can't handle the shock. There are a lot of guys who they're real excited about it. They're actively looking. They're almost to a point of desperation almost.
Yeah.
Then they finally they meet the other woman. They make all the plans, uh, bring her in, and that honeymoon period, it ends quick because now the excitement of the new woman, I guess, it goes away pretty quickly, and now you're in this uh complex paradigm that you really weren't prepared for. No matter how much time you spent on the drawing board, how much research you did, how much networking you did, you really didn't prepare for it, simply because you didn't grow up in it. You didn't grow up with it around you, right? So now you face the how should I say it? Now you face that. Now you face what is seen as an ulterior lifestyle, the reality of it. There you go. Thank you. Now you're facing the reality of it, and I've seen a lot of people, they can't handle it. So a lot of the times, you know uh I guess after that excitement goes away, then it comes to the point where they kind of wanted to go back now. Okay, we're done now. Can you go back where you came from?
Mhm.
Okay, I kind of, and you go through that shock. you know if the woman comes in with kids, there is that added shock there. Your family is going to go from 5 to 8. from 4 to 8.
Mhm.
And all of a sudden it's not like having a new baby where you build one at a time. A new baby comes in, then another baby comes in. It just bam. Three human beings came in at the same time. So your house is not as quiet as it used to be. It's not as there's stuff all around the place now. You got to put a little more effort, and structure is needed to accommodate that. Structure helps, keep things in order. Uh, so I've seen a lot of people, a few people, and I suspect a lot of times you're not there, so you don't know why. But I suspect that's why a lot of people after. Anytime you see a situation where it's there and then 3 months later that wife is no longer there, I really suspect that that's what it was. They just went through the shock of it all,
Wow.
and it was, they just couldn't make the ultimate transition because getting over there is not the transition. It's going through that phase of getting used to, your family now having been expanded, dealing with the new person, uh, you know, dealing with the new people if she comes in with kids, and adjusting to that. There is an adjustment period you go through, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
It's kind
You
of,
know,
you say, like a culture shock.
yeah, it hits you like a culture shock.
Yeah.
It hits you like a culture shock, and it is a culture shock
Hmm.
because the plural wife life, it is a different culture, you know, from the single wife life. So it is a culture shock. I remember years ago when we first went back to the island, and our daughter was real little. We went from here Dallas, then to New York, and she's been to New York before, and then we went to the island, to the Caribbean, where I'm from, and on the trip from the airport to my father's place where we were staying, she saw that it was just so different. And she had this panic attack. She had this panic attack, and she said, I think we've gone too far from home. We need to turn back. Yeah, I'll always remember that. And we had to explain to her that this is daddy's home. And she was like, no, daddy's home is New York. We need to turn back.
There's so many.
But when we woke up the next day and we took her to the beach, she just had the time of her life. So in that sense, if you could get past that shock, and, and you adjust, then that is when you really start to extract the benefits from it all. You know, so you guys have people.
Yeah, there are people there.
Okay.
The question is, what do you do about wives, like different cultures from the wives, like a wife from down south and a wife from up north?
Last night, like I said, it matters. What I've come to realize is that it matters more where you're going than where you're coming from, right? Because if you meet a woman and she has similar life goals with you, what you'll find that is that you're more on the same page. Because you could come from the same background, but if she's going in a different direction, then a lot of the times the mindset is different. And really, not a lot of the times, the mindset is typically different. When you have people that want the same thing out of life, their mindset is different. The mindset is the same, is similar. So you find that you are able to mesh better with somebody who wants the same thing out of life that you do. So, like I said last night, I'll say it again. It matters more where you're headed than where you're coming from.
because we've got three different cultures. If we're just talking about individual people in this house,
Right.
right? Because you're from the West Indies, I'm from Texas, and she's from Cali. So, and we're here.
Are they hearing you though?
I don't know. I was more talking to you. I
Oh,
don't
you're
know.
talking to me. Okay.
I was saying we're from three different places too, and so we're three culturally different people, more or less. You do have two Americans and a West Indian husband, but
Right.
even she and I are from two different places, two very big states that are kind of worlds unto themselves, really.
Right.
So
And
and but I said we're here, we're getting along.
and we did have to go through that adjustment period. I had to go through the adjustment period. I was tested to see if I was really about this, or if I was like many guys out there who just fantasize about the I guess the fantasy of it all, the having the multiple wives. So I have me man, me big man, me have plenty women type thing. And I guess I don't have to hide. I guess a lot of men have that fantasy, and you're going to be tested to see if you're one of these guys, or if you're really about this big family life.
Tell us about like responsibility.
And that's the thing. If as a man, you really have to search yourself and be honest. If you're not going to be honest with anybody, be honest with yourself. And if your goal in this is just to have multiple women for the how should I say it, for the fantasy of having multiple women, having multiple sex partners, I guess, without having to cheat. If really that's what it is, then you more than likely going to fail with this, because you're gonna get the other woman and you're gonna see that that's not what she is. That's not all she is. She's not just another sex partner, basically. And you're gonna have to extend way more of yourself than just your penis, right? And that might not really be what you're up for, extending that much of yourself, because you do have to extend a bit of yourself, because it is a separate relationship that you're embarking on. Even with her being in the same house, you are committing to a whole nother marriage. So you do have the duties and responsibilities therein. You gotta be, emotionally available for that other woman. And you have to be, the man. And if she have children, you have to be the father to these children. So you are going to extend way more of yourself than just your penis. So if that's so, you really have to be honest with yourself. Ask yourself if that's really, if that's really what is getting you excited about this.
Let's see here. K Berry says it's bringing them under the one household that seems to be the hard part to him.
Yeah, and it does get. I do see how it can be easier with the separate households, and that's after 2 years plus of being in the same house. As the man, I do see sometimes where it'll be easier, but I also see where it'll be harder, because last night you asked about dividing time. If you have the separate household, then yeah, you will definitely have to divide time. You will definitely be back and forth. And some men can do it. Some men, they're not homebodies like I am. You know, so they're already in a situation where they don't, they don't spend that much time at their home. You know, so if they have another woman somewhere else, then it might be nothing for them to go back and forth. But your question was last night was about splitting time. That was the same
Mhm.
person.
Mhm.
Yeah, then if you have them in the different home, then that will definitely be something you will have to do. So if that is a concern of yours, then it kind of sounds like there's a conflict on your part there, brother, because he's concerned about splitting time, but then he thinks having them in a separate home will be easier.
Yeah, he just feels like them being putting them in the household seems to be the hard part. His wife through him sent an email, and she's got her concerns, and it's probably a something, I don't know, that she and I could address or something like that at a future time. But her
Okay.
concern is, what if, like it's movie night and Kay Berry is cuddling on the couch with the other wife, and she feels she want that, and she want to know like how she's supposed to deal with those feelings of wanting that right now, and wanting to tell this other woman basically, get your ass up, and because I want that now, kind of thing. And how is she supposed to deal with that, and what's going on with that? It's one of those things where
I
it's a
guess,
little bit selfish.
if the wife is like that, then yeah, keep it separate, because, it doesn't seem like it seems like when you're there, she wants you to herself, and she does not want the other woman to have any part of you at that moment. So yeah, you might want to keep them separate, but then you will have to split your time, which, I really can't help you with that kind of time splitting. The separate home thing is not something I've done. I know a few guys who's done it. Uh, Honestly, I've never really, communicated with them on a one-on-one level to see how they do it, to find out how they do it. I just know of a few guys who do it.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of the guys that I'm closer with that also do this. They've done the one home thing like we do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So with that, I'm the separate home thing, or how we call it, dislocated
Yeah.
polygyny.
Disjointed, dislocated.
Dislocated
Mm-hmm.
polygyny. Yeah, I'm not too experienced with that.
Yeah.
I'm not. I cannot really take you inside that and help you out with how to go about it or how it works.
Right. So Alcoben Renaissance has a question. Says, can you speak to your marriage agreements and contracts, and do y'all have one? Tesla retracted his question.
He retracted it.
Tesla retracted his question. I kind of, it was about, yeah, pitfalls and mistakes, but he retracted it. So maybe you can do whichever one. He said on the blast video you were talking about some mistakes, that you had made some mistakes.
Okay,
We want to know what
if
mistakes.
you look at our videos, we never really get into that aspect, and I'll let you know why. Because for what I found out about that is, technically, any so plural marriage is illegal in this country, the US. So any way of legally legitimizing it, you're actually defrauding the uh the government and whichever party. And I found that out with when I went to get life insurance for the second wife, right? So for us to discuss that, we're actually basically producing evidence of trying to defraud the system, basically. So that is something maybe in an email or something.
One of those things. It's like you can make we can make suggestions, but as to what
Right.
actually
Okay. So I get
happens,
it.
And then the contract something big. There's contracts in religion for marriage. So basically,
or like a ketubah.
Yeah, but what I found out is that any attempt to try to legitimize it, any attempt to try to make it seem like that is your wife, you could do it. But if I am to, you could do it and you could disguise it in a certain way. But if I am to sit here on this public video and said that that is the reason I'm doing it,
Right.
yeah, then that is me defrauding
Right. So like
the government.
we're not divulging any of that. Like Lil Wayne said, what money? Like we're not gonna divulge any of that.
Right.
But
But
any suggestions?
there are family trusts. You know, I can tell you one thing that they could never get me on. You know, you have if you have you know you have family businesses, you make the other wife a member of the you make them you give them stake in the businesses, legal stake.
Percentages.
Yeah, you give them a percentage in it. If it's an LLC, you make them a member of it. Which they could never get you on that. You could do that with anybody. But when you get into stuff like wills and trusts and stuff like that, which you can, but if I am to sit here and say that I am doing it for this purpose,
Yeah.
you get it?
Yeah. Yes, understood. So K Berry have a follow-up question. Says, does it cost more to have separate homes than having them live in the same house?
I mean, yeah, yeah, it's okay. I'll say this, right? It's gonna cost, period, right? It's a bigger family. A bigger family costs money,
Mhm.
period. So even with in the same home, it's gonna cost. You know, I've seen the cost go up. With everything. I mean, just a simple, taking your family out to eat. It's gonna be more than what you were paying before. Whatever it is you were going to pay for you to enjoy it at the same level, it's going to be more, period. Right? This in the same home, the bills are going to go up, the water's going to go up, the electricity is going to go up, everything's going to go up. Right? You have another human being. If you provide the vehicle for the drive or whatnot, you're going to see that in cost of gas, insurance. It's going to go up. So it's so yes, this cost.
staying in one house is less expensive in a way that 3-bedroom apartment is $1,500.
Yeah, and definitely the one home. Yeah. So to answer your question directly, brother, yes, a separate home. Yeah, it does. It costs more. It does cost more. Uh, but I guess with certain women, you may get a peace of mind keeping them separate. So it's all about what you want to pay. You want to pay the money or you want to pay the headache, I guess. So it's a I guess at that point it's a trade. So if you figure it'll be more peaceful for you keeping them in the separate home, then go ahead and pay that money. Last night I said, like, I've come to understand, I really seeing that money is not everything.
Peace of mind is everything.
Oh yeah, peace of mind, happiness, it's everything, and it's worth putting the money on.
Yeah. So let's see. Zay is just clarifying and just going along pretty much with what you're saying. Just saying if each wife has their own home, you have two separate costs. It just simply costs more to live for them to live separately. This is from their experience.
Yeah, and then a lot of the times when you come down to that, you get like if the man is footing the bill for that, then the uh the second wife typically ends up with less,
Mm,
you
mhm.
know, because he had his first wife there, that was his home, and now really he just wants another woman, so he typically does the minimum for
Wow.
her,
Yeah.
just to, again, because he's just, his first wife, I guess his situation, it's easier for him to keep them separate.
Mhm.
So that's really all he's trying to achieve. He's just trying to, have over there to keep them separate. So he does just what it takes to achieve that, and nothing more. And what we've seen is that creates another level of discourse, because that other woman, she feels like, she's not treated fairly. She feels like she's treated lesser. So then, he has to deal with these emotions.
Right.
So, I would say, and to have this flow smoothly, you wanna not have the any incoming wife feel like they're treated less.
Right. Do you think um, separate households? Don't you think that as the man, that would be exhausting anyway?
Some men do it.
Yeah.
Yes, some men do it.
You think they're more tired than the man that have both women in the
Some
house?
men do it. Some men do it, and they're not even in. Some men do it. Some men have women on the side, and they do it. They do it already. I know with me, I like to be home. I like to be at my home around my family. So for me to keep coming and going, that's going to be exhausting for me.
Yeah.
But some men are built like that. They could go back and forth, and that is their life, and they don't have any problem.
Right.
So now the question is taking a wife who cannot have kids.
Taking a wife who cannot have kids, it's all about your program, man. If it's in your program, if your vision for your family is for you to keep, replicating yourself or procreating, making children and children, then yeah, a wife who cannot have kids will not fit in this. It will not fit in with your program. But if in your program it's not needed for you to have children with the other wife, then yeah, a wife who cannot have kids will fit into it. Is that question asked there?
Yes, it's
I
there.
apologize. I don't see how these things are so complicated.
How are they so complicated? But some people are like, no,
No offense, guys.
no.
Like some some people like culturally in Islam, polygyny is like a minute for the barren woman, the widowed woman,
Oh,
the woman with
okay.
children
So
but
that's in a cultural context.
yeah, I mean
And then in other cultures, they want all these
nation building,
children,
the
nation
nation
Or
building
the
building to build
nation
wants
an
to have
building.
empire.
1,000 children, although they can adopt.
Right, but never
Right.
mind
Side
adopting.
note.
They don't want to adopt. They want all these children, and so you know,
I've never really met a polygynous man like that. I met a lot of guys who talk like that.
yeah,
And quite frankly, honestly, I think it's really just an excuse for it.
right.
It's really, yeah. I think it's, when a man comes around, oh, I want a lot of kids, I want a lot of kids, I want, I see that, like, usually it just seems to me that that's just his excuse. A lot of men in this, they're gonna have the angle that they're gonna keep selling it at. They're gonna say it's this reason, it's that reason, and a
Mm.
lot of the times it's not.
It's not, what about an age gap? How young should the second wife beat. I think that's
In these situations, it's not much different from monogamy, man. It's a man having multiple wives. If you're so whatever stipulations you have for wife in monogamy, whatever wife you can have in monogamy, just multiply that by how many wives. It's like you always say, it's like multiple monogamous relationships running congruently,
Yes.
right, with the same man.
Yes.
I don't think age is an issue, but I do know culturally, some places, like on the continent, the incoming wife needs to be, like 10 years younger than the original wife, because, you've got the mother wife and then the baby wife type of thing. I just think that complicates stuff, and
I think if we're going to nation build, I think that
it's got to be over 18.
well, yes, definitely over 18. But I think it's one of these things that if you keep having wives that are 10 years younger than the last wife, then that allows the man to continue to have children up until his 70s. Because a man can stop having children, doesn't stop producing, sperm until he's like around 77. So if he has a wife that he's taking wives that are 10 years earlier, he will always have offspring. He'll always have a fount, a vessel with which to have his seed. But not everybody's doing that. He's asking, what if wife one is 35 and you look for a second wife who is 18?
So now I got to ask, why you looking at the 18-year-olds, brother?
Sorry.
My daughter is 20.
Sorry.
Okay.
This is one of the questions.
Yes. 18,
you can give
like,
your opinion if
like 18.
Look how he's look at his face.
18, what y'all gonna talk about?
What y'all gonna talk about?
Y'all gonna talk about Pusha T? What's his name? Pusha
Again,
T,
man.
Drake?
This hinges on.
I know, but you're 18.
This hinges on a man's ability to convince multiple women to share him, right, in a marriage capacity, right? So if your 35-year-old wife is willing to share you with an 18-year-old wife, and your 18-year-old wife is willing to share with your 35-year-old wife, then so the question you need to ask is, can you convince these two women to share you?
I don't want you to know why I got to raise her. Wait.
So how do you think this would play out here?
Here?
I'm asking him. Here with us.
Here.
Yes.
Man, I don't think I could do it.
You don't think you could do it?
Nah. I don't think I could do it. Actually, there was one time I spoke to a 20. How old was she? 21, 22?
Ooh. She was.
Yeah, I think she was 21, I believe.
Yeah.
She was 21, and then I just couldn't do it. I thought I could, but then after that encounter, I'm like, I just kept looking at her like, you're a baby, you're a kid, and I just couldn't see her as as a mate.
Right.
I couldn't see her as a mate. I'll let you in. I took her out to dinner, a quick date, and then I just couldn't get past that. And all I kept thinking was, I gotta bring the person's child back home for them. That's all I kept thinking.
Where's your curfew again?
I can order any.
Ooh.
We don't have to go to McDonald's, and I gotta get a Happy
Right,
Meal.
and she was just so excited to have
That's scary.
a guy dining her.
Some men want that. Some men want to be that thing.
He's like, no.
I mean, some men like the women infantile.
Oh.
I don't.
You don't like it infantile.
Good and grown.
Good and grown.
You got to be a partner, man.
I'm not about to raise no 18-year-old.
But
no, honey. Okay. So you grease the pan first, then you pour in the batter. You don't do that. supposed to do that. You gotta teach you how to wash clothes and stuff.
Yeah, they don't have home ec anymore.
They don't have
But
home ec. They don't even know how
but
to
you know
cut on
what?
an
I will
iron.
say I met this young sister. She was very sweet. She
Yeah,
was
she was
sweet.
sweet.
She was
You know, she was sweet. She was polite,
but like you thinking of her as a
but
child, I'm sitting there, I'm like,
she
she was a
was
good girl.
immature, man.
She
She
was a
was
sweet
just,
child.
she just, she wasn't a mate.
She's supposed to be
Yeah, I mean,
absolutely
nothing wrong with her. She
100%.
was supposed to be
She
so.
was within her
We
So,
gotta
range of
not
her
compare.
so
age.
some men like that, that senior junior
Hmm.
relationship.
Yeah.
Some men like that. I don't. I couldn't dig it.
Just as a wife, I think that if that were a situation that you were interested in, I think at that point I would want the separate living situation.
And then, man, I got
Can't
a,
do it.
I got, I
I'm
got a,
listening to Pusha T all day.
and then I got a daughter. I got my daughter just turned 14.
I know that would be crazy.
And my daughter, she's like the size of an 18-year-old
Yeah.
already. So
Yeah, yeah,
No,
it's not going to work.
no, nothing less than 36.
36.
36.
What about that? We won't say that. We won't say 36.
No.
we got another question or something to move on from this.
Mm, no, let's see. He just said that he sees people looking for that in some of these groups. And it's just
I'm
kind of
trying to clear it up. You're like, no, wasn't me. Other people. I see you, Kate Berry. I see you.
so let's see. We already talked a little bit about, I guess, finances. We talked about responsibility. Um,
Merging children.
yeah, merging
children.
the children.
It's not that difficult.
It's not that difficult.
No, you're gonna go through that adjustment period. Children get along more than adults get along.
Yeah.
So it's not that difficult. It's not something merging children to me is not. You're gonna get the culture of the existing household and the culture of the household the children came from. And it's more than likely going to be a single parent household,
Mhm.
right? But whatever rules and stuff, whatever way they were, they're going to come into the house with a new set of rules, new children that are different. But children get along, man. It's not that difficult.
How was it with me basically adjusting to you parenting my son? What did you notice was going on, and do you think that's something that happens in other families as well?
How was it with you parenting? Like, what do you mean by that?
Like with you stepping in to now be a father to my son.
Well, there was some trust issues there on your part.
Exactly. Put me under the
You
bus.
know,
I'm okay.
I guess a lot of people, and me too, a lot of parents don't trust other people with their children. And it's not, they don't readily trust other people. So, yeah, I was new. Your son came in, you know,
I think
uh,
that was the biggest
you were the
issue.
biggest
Talk
issue.
about it.
You know, it's probably you should talk about
I
it.
should.
You know, I
I
basically
should.
had to address that. I had to address that because it seemed like every time I would try to raise the boy, try to step in and be the father in my way, the same way I, father my own boys, then she would have a problem. She didn't trust that I was after his best interests. She thought it was some lion type stuff. It's not my boy, so I'm gonna be insensitive and just ill treatment. But so we had to have a couple conversations about that, and and she came around.
Yes, I did. I'm human. I was afraid.
picking out home
Oh
decor with.
no, wait, we got
Wait, yeah, don't go there yet.
Okay, so
I
I will
Coben
read.
Coben asked, do y'all plan to have more children?
I'm not having no more children. I'm going to be a grandmother soon, like in the next 10 years. I'm looking forward to grandmotherhood.
If life throws another wife at me and she comes in with children,
Hmm.
then these are the children I would have.
He's like, otherwise,
No,
no.
I'm not having. I want. I want to be a grandmother. In the next 10 years.
I do.
You know what I mean? I'm looking forward to that.
When she's
Taking the
turning
baby
20.
and then giving it right back.
All right.
Like there you go. Come on, baby. I love you. I'm not. No, I'm not ready. I don't want to do that. He's like next person.
Yeah, I hear you. Yeah. Anybody come in? That's what she'll be. She'll bring her children with her. There
Yeah,
you go.
she'll bring her children with her.
So okay. Hey Barry, we're not gonna deal with the home decor question about women who have different styles. Only
They gonna
because
split that kitchen.
it just seems to me you and your wife gonna have to have a ton of conversations, you know.
But as we
Okay,
see,
so
that happened with
Yeah, I know.
so this is gonna take a level of maturity, and this is gonna take a level of looking at what's important, right? And honestly, that is not important, man. I know I had to mature in this. The first time I actually attempted it 5 years ago with you, right? It didn't work out because I was still stuck on the fantasy of it all, the theory of it all. This thing I had in my head of what it was going to be like, and it was just going to be so phantasmic, basically, right? And then the reality came in, and
The reality was real.
the
yeah,
reality was
for both of us.
Yes.
You had your way of looking at it too, which was not grounded. You know,
I was
You
like,
see that? Y'all don't believe on YouTube.
it
Don't
was
believe
not
that.
grounded,
Don't believe
right? But
neutral party said.
So
Yeah,
we
what-
had
what you say
to.
neutral party? Wait a minute.
Might not
So
have been
it
grounded.
it
But go ahead.
so it crumbled, basically. It crumbled, and we had to. It was brick and bones type of growing. So we had to basically get real. And after the getting real, we saw that, hey, then we looked at intentions, and I guess what it is was that we realized that we both had good intentions in this. And let me tell you something, man. Look for women with good intentions in this. Before you look for anything else, look for somebody with a decent heart that is really wanting to do this,
Mhm.
and not after some type of selfish, have some selfish agenda in it.
Yeah.
That is going to save you a lot. A lot of the times, the problems you have with the women is because one woman is selfish. Like even the home decor question. Come on, man.
No.
What question?
The
The
home
home
decor
decor question.
It's so much selfishness.
Yeah,
I
it is.
understand, but it's his wife's question.
She needs to ask her questions when it's
You
us
got
on
to
the.
ask us, sister. Come talk to
You
us.
can't
We'll
ask
get
this
that
man these
all
questions.
together.
Look, you can ask this
You
man
know,
these
men don't.
questions.
They don't even want to go to the mall with you. Like,
Hey, hey, Barry, brother, you ask your questions. Tell
I'm good. It's up.
tell Mrs. Barry that we'll be happy to talk to her when it's the women's time to talk.
Right now, it's men
Right
talking.
now.
Right?
It's all about the brothers, what the brothers is going through.
Man, you have to grow out of the unimportant stuff and get real. This is big. This is important. This human lives are at stake.
Yes, human lives at stake.
Human lives are at stake, and it cannot hang in the balance of I prefer this curtain, but she likes this this.
Or she put the flower in the cabinet with the such and such. Remember that one?
I think so. Vaguely.
Yes. She wiped the
So
counter off
then,
with
so
the
then, what's
scrap.
gonna happen? A wife, you like you bring her in. She's from somewhere else, from another state. You bring her in, and then you gotta send her packing because this one preferred drapes, but
Yeah.
she
That one
wanted
like
could come
blinds.
on.
Yeah.
And then these things
Or
have
or
to
or
women
you're
want you
going
to submit.
or you're gonna have to deal with arguments and conflict because this one puts the Tupperware over here, but that one says it needs to go there instead. Come
Yeah.
on, man.
So
If you could get past that, then you can really build something, something that's worth it, something that's worth the dynamic. But if you're stuck on that, you're wasting time.
so here's a question. Evil Irons asks, do you find that men are more apprehensive or haters of polygyny than women are? Because that's been my experience.
Actually, yes, I've kind of what we like. You get men, you like this guy with three baby mamas.
Oh
He
yeah,
got three baby mamas.
yeah.
He's still seeing all of them,
All of them.
but he thinks polygyny is a man taking advantage of women.
Yeah.
You see how that sounds? That makes no sense,
Never
right?
mind him taking advantage
Right. So basically, you know, he's in a situation where he doesn't have to be responsible
of it. Hmm.
towards them,
Yeah.
right? So the guy who is being responsible is the one that's taking advantage because he has his women consenting and in agreement with it, but he's taking advantage.
Yeah.
Like we said in a previous video, uh, monogamy is more patriarchal
Hmm.
than polygyny
Hmm. Hmm.
because monogamy does not stop men from having multiple women. What it does stop men from is being responsible
Mm.
for multiple women.
Mm. Wow. Yeah. Look, I'm like, I didn't remember saying that in another video, but that's like, that's what he said. He said we said it. That was like some good stuff right there. Akobin asked, how old is my brother? He has a great deal of wisdom and good practical sense. How old are you,
Man,
sir?
I'm 36 on Tuesday.
Right, 36 on Tuesday. Happy birthday. Let's see. Should you be looking for should a man look for a wife that brings in a skill set that is in that your family needs?
We need a carpenter, so I'm gonna go find me a wife with a carpenter.
I will say
That's what they be doing, right?
Petty,
No, they be looking
Petty
like.
Jackson right here. But
But
go
when you
ahead.
speak
I'd say
Spanish,
I'd say bringing a wife that's ready to be a wife.
Okay. So no particular skill set.
You're going to find use for another adult human being, and if you can't find use for her, then I call that bad leadership. You don't have a good vision.
Mm,
You don't have a good plan.
mm.
If you need her to have a specific skill set, what's that? Man, then open a roti shop.
Hey, see now.
Open a
you like
roti
that one?
shop.
That sounds good. Look, that sounds good. Roach sounds good.
Yes, roti shop.
Oh, Tesla said what he is a man who does not want to be fully responsible for the women that he's with.
Right.
That's what you were
That's
saying.
that's
That's what it is. Um. Oh, let me think. I'm trying to think of some. Y'all, if y'all have some questions, you got to put those questions, man. Otherwise, we're gonna start flying off the cuff, trying to think of our own questions.
How do you think a man should deal with?
See, go
How do you
ahead.
think a man? Okay, so here's the scenario. This man has had this woman as his mistress for 20 years. And then he finally brings it to the table to his wife that he is interested in marrying this woman and having a relationship. Then it comes to find out that they have been having a relationship this whole time. How should this man um, fix his family. Like, what could a man do to fix that? How is that fixable?
Yeah, I believe it's fixable.
It's fixable.
I really don't see the problem there. I mean, I do see the problem of deceit. What,
Right.
20 years of deceit,
Yeah, that's a lot.
right?
Yeah.
20 years of deceit.
Mhm.
So then, what happened?
And and then
And
and then the affair was basically kept hidden, and now hey, I want to marry her, type of thing
And
happened.
what did the wife?
the wife
Did the
was
wife
The
open
wife
agree?
to
was
She
like
it.
was
open
open.
arms, like, come on, yes.
She's
And
like, I
then
love
30
you,
days
sis,
later, it's like, but yeah, we've been sleeping together for 20
this
years.
whole time.
Okay, but she accepted the woman.
That's right.
Right. So she accepted the woman when she didn't know they
Yes.
already had a relationship. But after accepting the woman, then she found out that that relationship dated back 20 years ago,
Yes.
and now she has a.
How
You
does
know,
he do it?
I mean, there's deceit there, uh, but she accepted the woman. So, deal with the deceit, heal from that, and move on. Because the character is there, doesn't change. So asking for a friend.
Asking for a friend.
um, I'm trying to think. I was
Because
listening to
when you
something.
look at it, so you accepted him taking the other woman as a wife, right? And you're cool with the other woman, I guess. Everything's good. But now that you found out that they've actually been together, I know it hurts. You've been deceived.
Yes,
But you're going to make that break up the family now?
absolutely.
I mean, that's the stance
I
of a
want to
woman.
now be a single mother. Like, so how does a man repair this? What does a man, or should a man do to
The man can't do anything. It's up to the woman. It's up to the woman. I mean, done what he can
should he
to
divorce the second
apologize.
one?
Should he? No, he shouldn't divorce the
Look
second
absurd.
woman. And I had my family go with my wives. Okay, I've been with her, but now because that it was, I know I did wrong, but we all came together. Now you want to take a step back.
Mm-hmm. My said that's a huge lie. So you're supposed to trust both of them now? That's scary.
What else can they do? I mean, what else can you do?
If it's something to consider. If he's been a good man this whole time for 20 whole years, you didn't realize somebody was cheating on you. That must mean he's been treating you very well and providing for you very well because you didn't miss nothing, missed a beat, in my opinion.
But
Um, you
that
know,
doesn't make sense. I get it, but in the context of polygyny, it kind of doesn't make sense.
you just gotta.
I think the trust can
It's
be
still
built.
it's still infidelity. Yes, he was.
Yeah.
It's still infidelity. He broke the trust, but that's really a step back. We're here already.
We're already here. Deal
We're
with
here.
what happened.
Yeah.
I had. What was the question? We had already talked about that situation. Oh, you go choose one.
I can.
Go
No,
ahead.
from here, no. You do. Yeah,
What?
yeah. I'm pulling out like stuff on my back pocket. I'm trying to get the
Yeah,
answer.
Oh,
and it's kind of like
how do you deal with a wife's insecurity? Because like this person, that's what reminded me when I saw the question. I was like, oh yeah, that's what it was. Her best advice on integrating a new wife into the existing family structure, especially with a skeptical or apprehensive first wife. So she's already skeptical and apprehensive, and you bring up the idea of polygyny
I think
and all this kind of stuff.
sometimes the way some men go about it kind of it it fuels insecurity. When you when you're all excited about it and you act like you're like the video last night I said, be content with
Mhm.
what you have. And really it's not just being content, but be fulfilled with it.
Hmm.
But when you act like you want another wife, you can't live without it. Without it, you're desperately seeking one. You have this hole you're trying to fill. Then your wife is gonna feel like she's insufficient. She might feel like what's up with me that this guy is just act like he cannot just go on with life without another wife.
Is there anything that he can do
I
for
think
her?
is
She's
there
Is
anything?
there anything he can do? She's already full of what ifs
I mean,
and concerns.
if he is treating her with love, if he is already doing that, then it's something she's gonna have to work on for herself. You can't fix you can't you can't fix another individual. You could just play your part as you should play it. You can help them in certain things, but if it's her issue, then it's her issue to fix.
It says I got one. You having two wives to get pregnant at the same time as a man? How do you handle it?
Man, we know people like that.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, we know we know people that has happened to.
Yeah. How would you handle it?
I mean, you gotta handle it. There's so many people that have two women that don't know about each other,
Hmm.
pregnant for him at the same time,
Yeah.
right? And they handle it. I would think if they know about each other, if they're already in agreement to this, it would be easier.
Hmm.
Yes, you're gonna have double the work of catering to a pregnant wife, but it's not something that is impossible, or I don't want to underrate it and say it's not something that's difficult. Yeah, it's going to be you know it's going to probably be strenuous on the guy, but it's not something unheard of or that difficult. I think when people think about polygyny, a lot of the questions, or a lot of these things they think of, they think it's something new, it's different. A man having two women pregnant for him at the same time is nothing new.
Yeah.
And actually, in this life, it would make it easier
Yeah.
for him to cater to both pregnant wives.
Yeah. At the same time, because that way you don't have to do it again 10 months from now, and he's tired
So
and
yeah, and if he has them in the same home, then it's yeah.
that is everywhere. Um, what? Um, I was about to go back to the mistakes question, but I was going to ask you how do you deal with conflict resolution in this house? Conflict between you and your wife, your other wife, your wives, whichever dynamic you want to put it to. Conflict between your wives, you know, and however you want to do it. How do we handle conflict resolution in this house? How do we resolve our conflicts in this house?
Last night I said, as a man in this, you can't be a woman-led man. You got to be a man of your own accord. You have to be in your house. You have to be the man in that house. You have
Hmm.
to preside over matters. We deal with fairness here,
Hmm.
so we let fairness reign supreme. We say what's fair,
Yeah.
and really, it's as simple as that.
Hmm.
You stick with that. You put your foot down on that. This is what it is, right? And because of emotions, it might take some people some time to come to terms with it. You give them that time. or you help them come to terms with it.
Okay. So let's see here. How much input should a first wife have on her husband's choice in a wife? My wife did not believe my second wife to be good enough for me. I think she's fine though. How much
Wow,
input?
man, you should not be a woman-led man, and women are going to lead you sometimes via manipulation.
Yeah.
If you thought she was fine and your first wife thought she wasn't, then why? Some men get excited and they overlook things, right? They get excited over that new woman, and sometimes they're just so happy to have a new woman, they're blinded by certain things. So your wife may have a point, but then sometimes, you know, she could just be trying to manipulate the situation, because we actually know of people that their wife would use that tactic. Their
Mhm.
wife would use every tactic to discredit the incoming woman. No, she's not good enough. I don't like her because of this. I don't like her because of that. And that's her way of manipulating the guy into not ever having a second wife.
Right.
Why?
No, no, go ahead. That wasn't
Right?
to you.
So I guess come together, have a discussion, listen to what she's saying, argue about it. If she doesn't have a if she's not making sense, or if you think she's judging the other woman unfairly, have a discussion about it. Let her know she's not judging the other woman fairly. If she's able to back up her opinion, to justify it, then question yourself. Am I overlooking something that's really important?
Mm, okay. So here's a question. Um, what about multiple husbands?
Next question.
Next question, you say. Next question. What about multiple? Um, uh, well, the next one is Tesla telling us he has to go because he has a 10-hour drive tomorrow. And and he said he greatly enjoyed the class and he's looking forward to seeing more of the Big Brother in the near future. He said, one love. Nyla Aisha talking about this multiple husbands thing. She said it never fails. There's always one. There's always one. Okay.
Lighthouse.
Well, if there's no more questions, I mean, if y'all got questions, y'all gotta put them. We'll think of questions, but otherwise, once we done, we done.
I got a question.
What's the question?
How much how much should sisterhood play a factor in your choice of a wife or your polygyny experience and what you look for in polygyny? Should you be looking for sisterhood? Should you be looking for a husband? Should you look for both? Is sisterhood a factor? Does it have to be? What do you feel about that?
Sisterhood.
Sisterhood, huh?
Sisterhood.
I mean, that's difficult. I mean, we almost sound hypocritical discounting sisterhood.
Okay.
Right. What is sisterhood?
What is
That's
it?
a good
That's the question.
Right. I guess first that needs to be defined.
Ooh.
If sisterhood is what you guys have, the cooperation, and the wanting for my sister, wanting for her what you want for herself. Like last night, I let it be known on the video that, and I realized because of a question that was asked, one thing that makes it easy on me is the cooperation of you two, right? And the fact that you respect each other as my wife as well. And a lot of the times you don't get that. A lot of, as a lot of the times, like, you get the first wife does not quite respect the second wife as his wife.
Mhm.
She sees him as, as a woman he is sleeping with, or as a woman she is allowing him to sleep with. But she
Uh-huh.
does not truly respect him as his wife. She sees him as just like a fling or a spice or whatnot.
Mhm.
Right? So what is sisterhood? If sisterhood is like what you guys have, respecting each other as my wife, then yeah, it plays a major role. It plays a major role in peaceful, positive polygyny, and it's sustaining. Plays a major role in its sustaining. Because if you guys had this competitive, I don't really like her type vibe, going on, then yeah, like a question the guy asked, that would be a headache. You say
Choose
It,
what?
what?
make, it makes sense. Like,
You
you
have to
know,
change the way you do it.
the way I deal with the sister.
Oh, change our stance on. Well, but I
Yes,
mean, we both kind of have the same stance on
we
sisterhood,
do.
so he has given us something to think about.
Yes, you definitely
Because
do.
we do have to have some kind of base
I think y'all's
thing
problem with
on what
sisterhood
sisterhood actually
is the
is.
way these other women come at it, the way it's sold.
Yeah, maybe it's
The
a
way it's
false
sold.
sisterhood. Yeah,
And it's based
I
on
think
love.
they put Christmas lights on it.
Absolutely.
yeah,
Because it's only
And
there for a
they
minute.
make it into this thing.
yeah.
But if you get cooperating wives that respect each other, right? That in a sense is, it's sisterhood, especially if they respect each other as they respect themselves.
Mhm.
Like she respects you, she sees you as she sees herself towards me, right? Yeah, that is sisterhood. That is wanting for your sister what you want for yourself.
It is. Look, and we be
Came from a
trying. We
man.
try. Yeah,
Came
because
from
a
a
man
man.
had to set
The man
women
had to
straight on
tell people
sisterhood.
what sisterhood was.
Mm-hmm. So, okay, outside of cooperation, what's the most important quality of a wife in your opinion?
A wife in this,
Uh huh.
outside of cooperation.
Outside of cooperation, what's the most important quality?
Uh, last night I said the first point or the first quality of a man is that he has to be a family man. I think everybody in this has to be family oriented. Family, every wife, family has to be the goal. They have to put family first. If you get a woman and she thinks in terms of family, she's about family, she puts family first.
Is it more difficult for a man to introduce a woman who does not come from a scriptural background to polygyny?
It depends. Are you coming from a scriptural background?
Yeah, let's say the man is coming from a scriptural background.
Yeah, it is more difficult.
It's more difficult.
It is more difficult. I mean, it just seems like you're straying. It is more difficult. And when you say more difficult, when you say more difficult to introduce her to who?
Like, so you and your, I think it's like, so you and your wife, y'all are Abrahamic scriptural people. You got this person who is not. They aren't a part of the Abrahamic faith at all. Um, but you want them to, like, how do you introduce polygyny to that person and probably try to get them to, I
Okay,
mean,
say
is
the
that more
question. Is
difficult?
it more difficult to introduce? See,
Is
repeat
it
it.
more difficult for a man to introduce a woman who does not come from a scriptural background to polygyny?
Okay, I get it now. I thought he was introducing her to the other wife. So he is introducing her to
To
polygyny.
polygyny. Mhm,
Yeah,
mhm.
yeah, it is. It is more difficult if you're from one of the Abrahamic faiths. If you're from Islam or Hebrew, then it is spoken about. You are familiar with the concept of it. If you're not from one of these, then yeah, you are introducing somebody to something that they have no basis of, other than probably just the negativity they've heard they've heard about it, from mainstream media.
Mhm, mhm. Um, but it's like Islam. somehow with all the ones that have no scriptural background.
But sometimes you get an Afrocentric woman.
Afrocentric woman.
Yes, one who is into the African culture.
Mm-hmm.
And she is right. But the person who asked that question may not see it like that.
That's true.
Right? So you get a woman who is, into the Yoruba religion, more Afrocentric.
Mm-hmm.
And, she is familiar with it from that standpoint.
And so she could be brought in because she understands it from that space. Let's see here. I think I was going to ask something. Oh, I was just adding the fact that somehow the Muslims grab all the ones that claim not to believe in anything. Just catch all the ones that don't believe in anything, and next thing I see, they on my page, hijabbed up, and assalamu alaikum me and stuff like that. I'm like, what? Wow. Islam, what did you do? How did this happen? This woman said she didn't understand. It's just crazy. It's just crazy. They're open to it.
But then they end up leaving a religion or they become zealots of the religion.
Man, there's a lot of women out there looking for something. If you could give it to them, then.
If you could give it to them.
If you could give it to them.
That's right.
Then they will take it on the basis you're giving it to them. So if the basis is religion, then and they're getting what they want, then they will take it.
All right. If there's no more questions, it is. It's a lot of bugs flying tonight, and it's also nearly midnight.
Oh,
30 minutes from midnight.
Wow.
So I think we can say peace out. Is there anything else you would like to say, sir? Before?
No, I'm good.
We're good? Okay.
All right. Good night, Joe.
Good night. Shalom. Shalom, shalom.
You press that? No.